Oh, Splatoon. Yeah, Splatoon's not an example, I guess. You have a lot of personal agency. You know what? If I'm turning this into a just talking stream, I'm gonna switch over to here. I was just gonna end the stream, but it looks like we're here to talk game design for a little bit, which I'm fine. I'm down to. I feel a little bad just ending the stream early, so let me put on the talk music. Yeah, let me just put on the talk music and no, not a TED talk. This is just gonna, like, I don't know, game design talk. Why I don't like MOBAs? No, I've already gone over that. I'm not going over that again. I've already repeated my point too much, I think. But if you guys really must know, again, it's because I think MOBAs fall into this weird sour spot for me. It's a mixture of action game and strategy game, and for me, those two just don't gel together because, like, your real-time control over your character keeps telling me that you're supposed to have responsive controls and whatnot, right? But the gameplay in MOBAs are a lot closer to strategy games. Like, it's more about positioning, it's more about ability use, it's more about rotations, stuff like that, right? Is that right? Admittedly, I've not gone in depth into a lot of MOBAs, but that's my general impression. The movement has very high player agency. Yeah, the movement has very high player agency. Ability use has high player agency, but interactions are not very high player agency. You're very much at the mercy. When you get into range for an engagement, you're very much at the mercy of, like, what your power level is, what their power level is, speed values and stuff. There can be situations where once you engage in, and then you can't disengage, and, like, the mistake was already made once you were spotted, Or, like, when you group up as a group, for example, then you're even more screwed. Like, you run into two people and you're dead, And there's nothing much you can do about that. So that lack of player agency in a game where you have high agency over your movement feels really bad to me, I guess. When I pick up I didn't really want to. It's not really a complaint, I guess, but the impression I kept going was that when I went in, it's like, man, this movement is so sluggish in Unite. Is there a dash button? Can I move faster? Even if it's like the expense of stamina or something. But yeah, you just kind of move at that pace, even for the fastest characters, And then it's supposed to be kind of actiony, but it's really just simple button inputs. It's more like a ability rotation than it is action inputs and stuff. Attacking is literally just holding down the A button and running into things, and on that level, that's not really super engaging to me. And I get it, when you go into combat with other players and stuff, and then you pit your rotation against their rotation, then there's some level of, like, outplaying and interaction and stuff, and I think that's interesting, but it's not really fully that either, right? It's like a lot of, like, how you build your player, and that's part of the appeal, I guess, right? MOBAs are about, you're not playing a static character, you're playing an evolving character, and you change your moveset, and you change your abilities and your strengths as you go along into each session, providing a high level of customizability. I understand that. I understand that stuff, I guess, like that appeal in that area. But because of that, it takes away a little bit of the agency of, like, when you engage into another player and you're pitting your rotations again. There can be those situations where sometimes your rotations will never let you beat the other guy. The other guys just happen to build, like, Snowball earlier and has, like, a build that you can't beat, I guess. Which, again, takes away from the player agency a little bit, I think. And I don't know. If anybody who plays MOBAs, let me know if I'm saying anything wrong, because this is just my basic impressions. Like, if the game mechanics of a MOBA are a lot different than this, do let me know, because I would love to educate myself. Because I still don't want to learn what makes MOBA players tick, what goes into the game design of a MOBA. Even if it doesn't appeal to me personally, So, like, if my game theory is correct, is that roughly kind of the stuff there? you know. And also, yeah, it's social experience, right? So you get that cooperation stuff in there, which is why I guess when you're playing with friends and like you're in voice chat together and you're actually coordinating your plays, the satisfaction of pulling off PvE stuff, not PvE, group gameplay is appealing. But when you're playing against, if you're playing with randoms against other randoms, I guess that coordination doesn't come true, and then that part of the experience just kind of falls apart. Which leads back to, again, I guess, player agency. Yeah, I guess. Because I'm not averse to team games, really. But I think I realized, I lean towards games that give me more player agency when it comes to action stuff, you know? Like, games that let me feel like I'm contributing in meaningful ways. And I guess the other thing that really just didn't click for me is like the way the information is presented in a MOBA and how busy it can get. There's that... I think this sounds familiar because a lot of people will say that about fighting games as well. When you first pick up a fighting game or a MOBA or any of these kind of stuff and you just started out, there's a lot that you just don't know what's going on because the games don't teach you very well, right? And I went through Unite's tutorial, and while it is a simple enough game, I don't know if I really came out understanding what I was doing very much. I think in the end of the day, we won 2 games and then we lost 2 games. And in both of those situations, I really don't know what's going on. Yeah. And yeah, I get it. All games are hard to get into, you know? So I don't want to throw this as a complaint as if though it's unique to just MOBAs. Because heck, I play fighting games. That's one of the genres that has one of the worst player onboarding experiences. And the only reason I can get into other fighting games a lot easier is because I have experience in previous fighting games, you know? But yeah, I guess coming into the MOBA blind, even one as simple as Unite, the onboarding experience was rough. So there's that, you know? I did end up doing all the tutorials and stuff, but even then, and I think the other problem is I don't know if this is a fair complaint to make, but I think, yeah, I don't know if this is a fair complaint to make, but it feels like a lot of the situations where like multiple people are ganging up on you, it's like way more confusing than anything that's in a one-on-one fighting game. Like in a one-on-one fighting game, there's at least only one opponent doing one thing at a time, even though it's very fast-paced. In a couple of the MOBA team fights just now, when I ran into something, it really just felt like a bunch of particle effects just flashed in my direction and then I died. And I know the path to understanding it. It's literally just look up every character, look up all their abilities, look at the effects, figure out how they chain, and then you understand what's happening to you, you know? You're probably just getting womboed. Or maybe you're just getting a bunch of damage piled on you at the same time, you know? Either way, there is a way to understand it. But it's a lot of route learning, I guess. There's, I'm not sure if it's a solvable problem, I guess. I'm gonna keep going back to fighting games, because I think the player onboarding and the intuition of stuff also applies there, you know? But as a beginner player going into a MOBA, I don't know if other MOBA players have that intuition, like, and they recognize things going on. Like, oh, like that's supposed to be a stun, that's supposed to be AoE, that's just a high damage move, you know? Like, do you guys get that general impression when you play a MOBA, like even like a completely different one, or is it the case that every MOBA is different and none of that carries over, and you just have to play a bunch and look up the player abilities in order to understand what each of these things do? Because in a fighting game, there is that intuition a little bit, I think. Like, I recognize a DP, I recognize a grab, stuff like that, you know? So, I'm guessing there is some carryover between MOBAs of, like, basic concepts like that in terms of like what's going on the screen. Like there's probably some visual language going on there, right? That I'm just not getting as a new player, right? I figure that's probably the case. So if that's the case, you know, I don't really want to blame the onboarding for it, because onboarding is hard to get, right? Especially for a genre as complicated as this. But as a new player, it's rough, I guess. But yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that I'm describing are problems that are common to every single genre. Although more specifically, I guess things like fighting games, MOBAs, or team shooters are a little harder to get into than some other games. You know, some other genres are a little more intuitive to just get into. Like, they have more universal kind of visual language than these particular genres. These particular genres have like, it's like they have their own dialect, you know? They have their own specific dialect of symbols and visual responses that communicate certain ideas to the player who's already familiar with them. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so yeah, that's what I'm getting from chat. So a lot of that stuff is probably just genre carryover. And if that's the case, I think personally, that complaint isn't really a complaint. It's more of a complaint of just, in general, the onboarding process for certain genres. But that's just kind of every genre's problem. So that's not a mobile exclusive problem, you know? So I'll be fair to it. Like, a lot of my floundering about and my inexperience with the genre with Unite tonight really is just being completely new and not recognizing any of the visual language, not having any real concepts of MOBAs and stuff, which can be overcome if not for the one problem that I had, which is I just don't really like the amount of player agency that a MOBA gives me with the movement, with all that stuff, you know? And I think that's probably the part that I can't really overcome. That part of it isn't really clicking with me, and because of that, I don't have the incentive to push past the onboarding barrier. And yeah, I guess that's fine, you know? MOBAs really are the one genre of games that I just simply can't get into. Because I just don't like the way the player agency feels in the genre. And yeah, I think that's where we landed in the end. We kind of went on a meandering road here, but I think I've landed on a good conclusion here. I think Unite's probably gonna do all right. I think it's a decent game, presentation-wise, music-wise. It seems simple enough. I think it's gonna be popular. I think a lot of my friends are gonna be getting into it. But I think my problems aren't with Unite, and it's not that the game is bad. I think playing Unite tonight really just clicked for me that MOBAs aren't my genre. As much as I like to try and engage in them, they really just aren't my thing. And that's alright. I don't need to like every genre of game. Although it does feel weird because literally I will play almost any type of video game. Except MOBAs. MOBAs are really the one genre of video game off the top of my head that I just do not engage well with. And it feels a little bit of a pity, you know? Because I found things to love. I found things to love in pretty much every genre of video game. I play very widely. I do have my favorites. My favorite genres are like fighting games, rhythm games, and shoot 'em ups. But I will play but I do like a good RPG. I do like a good action game. And, you know, visual novels, platform fighters, plenty of stuff, even some horror. So yeah, I guess it's just a weird feeling. It's just a weird feeling to really come into this and really confirm that feeling of like, yeah, I think I found a genre of game that just really isn't for me. And I guess I'm rambling a lot because I'm trying to like process through these feelings and express them in a way that doesn't come across as like condescending to the genre or like dumping on the genre or anything, because a lot of people do like these games, and I think a lot of people are gonna like Unite. Which is why I'd be willing still to support the scene even if I don't play it, you know? Just by virtue of like it being on the same console as my favorite fighting game that I do a lot of work for. My setups and resources are already in place, and I'll be willing to help out, especially if a lot of people, like, you know, in the Pokemon community are probably gonna move on to, not really move on to, but they're gonna hop over to Unite and try and play stuff there, you know? And I guess it just feels like a little bit of pity to be missing out on that, you know? Like, if it turns out that, like, oh, they're gonna do some stuff like, you know, the SG, like, the Singapore Pokemon scene forms a Unite team and goes to fight, like, the Pokemon scene or the VGC scene in, like, Malaysia or Thailand or stuff like that, and not being able to be a part of that because I just don't enjoy the game feels like a little bit of a pity to me, personally. But that's separate from the game, you know, that's just like the social experience. And yeah, but I think I can still do stuff there, you know. I can support in a streaming capacity, in a grassroots esports capacity, and I think that'll be fine. So yeah, I think that's just my those are my rambling thoughts after trying a bunch of Unite. I'll probably edit this stream down to a more palatable video. Maybe a two-part. Maybe I'll do a two-part video. Like, first part is just first part is my games, and second part, like, yeah, I think first part I'll probably edit it down to like the games and maybe the tutorials. I'll cut out all my talking because I've already covered all my talking here anyway. And then the second part of the video is just like my thoughts and impressions on Unite. I probably won't title it anything. Like, I'm not gonna go down that route of VTubing of like why, like, you know, single sentence title, why I won't be playing Pokemon Unite. I don't need that. But I think I will just edit this down into a video to put my thoughts out there, you know, of like why I'm not engaging in this game or this genre in general. Like, just my thoughts on stuff. I don't know if anybody really would be that interested to find out why specifically me won't be playing Unite. I don't think I'm that famous figure, even in the Pokemon community. You know, I mean, I make a couple videos, sure, and I meme about Libre, but I don't think I'm that prominent a community figure. So I don't think it's gonna be a bunch of people asking me, "Hey, Coro, why aren't you playing Unite?" You know, everybody's playing it, that kind of stuff. But I guess just putting this video out to explain my viewpoint and how I've experienced, like, how I feel about the game is convenient. Convenient. That's the word I'm looking for, I guess.